the Lazy Peons.
Lazy Peons.
Lazy Peon.
Lazy Peon, the guy who so many of us know as the one who reviews games for a living. Regardless of all his great work and all the effort that he puts in his videos, recently he released a video giving Guild Wars 2 a check in 2023. And I have to say, just like all other creators, I feel like this review is kind of lazy. So let's take a look at what he said and just focus on the bits and pieces of his video where he raises a concern that might misguide newer players and places where he is actually right about the game, whether it was good or bad. Now, before we proceed, this is not a rant on the Lazy Peons video, and it's rather just a feedback from a player who actually has 4,000 hours in game time. Okay, so on a first look, we can see that he only has 3,200 achievement points and 96 mastery rank. People right now are rocking almost 40,000 plus achievement points, and the mastery rank can go well over 500. I mean, it's not uncommon to see a casual player with at least 200 mastery and well over 8,000 achievement points. So we can see that he hasn't put the time needed to give a proper feedback on so many aspects of the game, and a veteran who knows their shit can already see that this review is going to be shallow and more of a media review rather than an in-depth one. Okay, so in the video, he starts off the game and boots up his Catalyst, which is an Elementalist elite specialization that came out in End of Dragons, and I have to say is one of the more complex and difficult classes and elite specs that you can play as a new player. And the game actually shows that as well. Now, this is coming from a player who has mained the Elementalist for a long time. Allow me to explain for the newer players. Normal classes, like for example the Ranger, they simply have their action bar and a set of skills that they use based on the weapon and the utilities that they have. The Elementalist, though, has a unique feature, and this is called attunements. Now, the Ele has 4 attunements, and this is fire, water, lightning, and earth. And based on which one you are attuned to, your skill bar changes. So to execute the class perfectly, you have to play something like this. He then talks about his fashion, which I have to agree. He does pull off a nice design for his character. Now, as a returning player, he obviously wants to relearn his class again. So as you can see, he jumps into meta battle to check out the latest builds available. And then he starts practicing his rotation, which is a good start. But then he says this.
That's the annoying thing about Guild Wars 2, like it's such an alt-friendly game when it comes to leveling your alts to max level, but map completion isn't shared whatsoever across any of your alts.
Now, to everyone who's new here, apart from the fact that exploring the maps in Guild Wars 2 is a journey that brings exploration to a whole new level with the complex biomes and all the diversity of the environments that the game has, map completion contributes to an extremely important item called Gift of Exploration. This item is a necessary part in the game that allows you to craft the first generation legendary weapons. Now, players do this till this day, even veteran, even myself. We do this till this day, and some players actually enjoy it. Not only that, but also some players, they do map completion speedruns, and others have developed add-ons that allow you to process the entire map completion in an efficient way. So the community is all in on this one. It can be a chore at times, but this can only come from a player who has done it at least once or twice fully, and not from someone who still doesn't have 100% map completion. Also, the game has portal scrolls and tomes that allow you to travel almost anywhere in the map, and they can be shared between all the characters. So the idea of, oh, okay, I don't have these things unlocked on my alt or these locations unlocked on my alt, if you play the game a bit more, you can find out that these scrolls and tomes exist for this exact reason. One point I have to agree with him on is that the game is alt-friendly. Alright, let's continue.
Surely this is going to be the last Guild Wars 2 expansion before they make Guild Wars 3. Surely.
Come on, I mean, Guild Wars 2 I think is already a stretch, don't you think? And you don't see so many games create sequels. It's like saying, for example, let's have World of Warcraft 2 or Black Desert 2. Those games will most likely never exist. And even Guild Wars 3 might not sound feasible for ArenaNet and NCSoft to pull off. But then he continues to say that Secrets of the Obscure is probably the last expansion the game will see. Not sure where he got those claims from, but from the 2023 studio update, ArenaNet stated this. Our future expansions for Guild Wars 2 will be the backbone of this new approach. Rather than launching an expansion every 2 to 4 years with a season of Living World in between, we'll be releasing smaller expansions more frequently at a slightly reduced price and adding additional content for those expansions through quarterly updates. This means that the ArenaNet will be releasing one expansion every year, and in this expansion there will be 3 updates in a quarterly basis, so they can push out more expansions. This is literally the complete opposite of what he says. Okay, now after that, he just plays through the first part of the story, and then he confronts this big boy and says that this part is scuffed. Well, I gotta disagree with him as well. Just take your time and do it right, you won't have an issue, as you can see on my first playthrough.
The graphics on Guild Wars 2 are starting to look a little bit out of date, like the textures and the lighting in these kind of areas. The game is certainly starting to show its age in 2023.
Yeah, I do agree with him at this point to some extent, but this does not apply to all the maps in the game. That's the thing. Some places are visually beautiful and others are just eh. And I think ArenaNet should address this. But again, we can't expect major changes from a game that is over a decade old now. Besides, they did just recently push from DirectX 9 to DirectX 11, and this was a major under-the-hood change that improved the game's performance by a long shot.
ArenaNet presents Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure. A little bit scuffed that the NPCs are talking in the background of that.
Yeah, I also actually have to agree with him on this one. It does feel half-baked and scuffed, and it doesn't give this, oh wow, this expansion's about to be sick feeling. I mean, compare it to one of my video endings. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, this really means a lot. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you guys in the next one. Peace. No? Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, the peon then talks about the new Wizard's Vault, which is the new daily system in the game, and then the messed up dialogue in the story. ArenaNet seriously has to fix this, as it is a bit of a let-off. Makes new players feel like the game is poorly developed, and this is a first impression. It's not like the issue is far down in the story, it's only in the intro. So yeah, ArenaNet, please address this. Now this is another thing that removes all the credibility from his review.
They've added a bunch of new stuff. This whole novelties tab seems to be new.
He claims to say that novelties are a new addition to the game. Well, that's not true. This system has been out since October 2, 2018, and shares were out since August of the same year. And this is the thing about channels who review video games with this scale. At one point, I understand his struggle, and playing all the way and experiencing everything is borderline impossible if that's not his primary game, and he is a content creator of this scale. But again, I believe that you should either mention that your review is not as authentic as it should be, or don't do reviews on games of this scale in the first place. But he did say something that was kind of funny. Check this out.
If you go on an e-date with a girl in Guild Wars 2 and you whip this bad boy out, she knows you're broke and she's just not gonna hit you up in the DMs again. It's over. You have to at least spend some money on a decent share.
Alright, now he gets to the fight with Dagda in the story, and I have to agree with him that the fight is a bit difficult, especially for the newer player. But again, he was playing a glass cannon class, and he was rocking very basic gear, and his stats are not how they are supposed to look. So he is also probably using the wrong set of stats on his armor, accessories, and weapons. He also has a healer mage template active, which also tells a lot as he is playing a catalyst, an elite spec that is not meant to be played as a healer in the first place. Alright, so after the Dagda fight, the peon decides to jump back into PvP, and I gotta say everything he said about it, from the long queue times to the fact that it needs an update and the enjoyability, is fairly true. But what he does next is very questionable as well. What he does is literally buy a relic from the trading post for 11 gold.
So I'm gonna buy one of these new relics. Just one more thing to add to your character.
When he literally has one in his inventory, and he literally attempted to open it previously in the video. Alright, so beginning with the pros, which is something all his viewers wait for and he plugs them by the end of his videos. For Guild Wars 2, he mentioned a couple of pros which I agree with, and I think he missed a huge one.
That's what she said.
And this is that the game has no subscription fee. Now, when it comes to cons, the game is difficult to get into, that's true. There's a ton of things to do, but again, we can't forget, more than 10 years old, guys. PvP has been neglected, that's also true. And I won't get back to the map completion isn't a count-wide thing, as we already discussed this. Finally, for the hot take, this is not really a hot take, guys.
There's a lot of different stat combinations, and often you'll run a different set of gear not only for each type of content, but for each build.
There is a lot of stat combinations, that is also true, but this is why the legendary armory and the legendary equipment exist. You can literally swap to any stat you want and use it on any character you want without needing to bother about other gear anymore. This takes a lot of time to achieve, but you have to work for that quality of life improvement. At the end of the day, the legendary does not provide any stat benefit over the ascended armor, except for the quality of life upgrades. So what he is talking about already exists in the game.
If you're a PvX player, your bags and bank are just going to be littered with gear, and this is the biggest thing that makes me want to quit Guild Wars 2 every time I play the game.
This issue also has a solution, and this is called equipment templates. You can literally place the pieces of gear that he's talking about for your other builds in those numbered equipment templates, and just press the number to change the gear on the fly. It's that simple.
What content do I want to do? World vs world? Okay, let's go over to meta battle and find a build. Oh wait, I don't have a gear set with those stats. Go to the trading post, buy a full set of gear plus runes plus sigils, the correct weapon, accessories, and now a relic. And I'm finally able to participate in my chosen content after dropping 50 to 100 gold.
You don't need 50 to 100 gold to get a decent set for your build. The game has more ways than ever now, including ways to get ascended gear just by completing dailies and weeklies through the Wizard's Vault. Also, ascended gear stats can be changed using the Mystic Forge, and the legendary equipment exists for this reason. Another thing is that him buying a relic for 11 gold when the chest to choose a relic of his choice is literally in his inventory doesn't support the
50 to 100 gold
claim. For players who are actually invested in the game, you will easily come across any piece of gear you want with the exception of a few ones. But those exceptions are gear with stats that you will need to basically min-max your potential in the class.
Here's my suggestion. Literally remove gear from the game and allow players to just choose their stats and loadout from a menu similar to what's already available in SPVP.
Bro just killed the whole system. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep going as I think you guys get the gist. But for all the new players who made it this far in the video, don't decide whether you should play a game from reviewers who review games for a living, but rather from actual players of the game. The Lazy Peon is entertaining, and I have massive respect for his work. But come on, bro, you have to give games a bit more justice. Anyway, if you guys want actual reasons to play Guild Wars 2, check out this video. I will leave a link to it in the description. And if you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. This will help out a lot. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.